it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?
Okay folks, hello again, this is Gregory and this is Bob Dylan, a head full of ideas. We're now on season 4 and we're now on the second part of me looking at Bob Dylan's love songs of the mid-1960s. So here we go. Like All I Really Want to Do, It Ain't Me Baby is a song in which the narrator makes a series of denials to an unknown woman. The language is simple and direct with little metaphorical content. Strongly worded repetition is again used to get the point over. The first 2 verses build into long choruses, with the third verse reiterating the message in a shorter form. The narrator accumulates reasons as to why he cannot live up to his lover's expectations. The tone is rather similar to Hank Williams' Cold, Cold Heart, except for the fact that it is Dylan's narrator rather than his love object who is being cold. The first line, Go Away From My Window, is also the opening line of a song by the rather eccentric operatic folk singer John Jacob Niles, which also has a slightly similar melody. At first, the narrator takes a relatively gentle approach, instructing the would-be lover to leave at your own chosen speed. He then begins to explain why he is giving her the brush off. I'm not the one you want, babe, he sings. I'm not the one you need. Then the build-up to the chorus begins. You say you're looking for someone, never weak but always strong, to protect you and defend you, whether you are right or wrong, someone to open each and every door. There's little ambiguity in the message. The narrator rejects his lover, putting him on a pedestal and characterizing him as a protector or saviour who will support her and love her unconditionally. The disillusionment is completed by the emphatic chorus, but it ain't me, babe. No, 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 it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe. The repetition of no, no, no has often been seen as a riposte to the Beatles' famous refrain of yeah, yeah, yeah in their massive worldwide hit She Loves You of the previous year. But if yeah, yeah, yeah suggested an unbridled positivity and optimism, no, no, no clearly signifies the opposite. In It Ain't Me, Babe, Dylan writes what would be considered one of his first pop songs while turning conventional sentiments upside down. The song was soon recorded by mainstream acts like folk rock band The Turtles, clean-cut surf rock duo Jan and Dean, pop rock diva Nancy Sinatra, daughter of Frank of course, and country legend Johnny Cash. Cash's version is especially distinctive as the song is a perfect vehicle for his powerful vocals, which reveal distinctive hints of vulnerability beneath his usual driving beat. Perhaps the most affecting verse is the second one, in which the narrator implores the lover, at first rather gently, to go lightly from the ledge, babe, go lightly on the ground. This is contrasted with the unequivocal, I'm not the one you want, babe, I'll only let you down. He confronts her directly, attempting to destroy her illusions about him. You say you're looking for someone who'll promise never to part, someone to close his eyes to you, someone to close his heart. Then there is a suggestion of possible tragedy, someone who will die for you and more. The narrator clearly indicates that he's not prepared to martyr himself for her. The final verse more or less reiterates this message, with the narrator denying that he is prepared to gather flowers constantly and come every time you call. Dylan uses the tropes of romantic songs to deliver a distinctly anti-romantic message, yet there is a wistful quality here which suggests that it is possible that the narrator may actually be in love with the girl. Perhaps he is deliberately playing hard to get by coming across as ultra-modest. It Ain't Me Baby is one of Dylan's most well-known songs. Covers have appeared by Brian Ferry, the Fleet Foxes, Sandy Denny, Joan Baez, Linda Gale Lewis, Bob Younger, Lucy Kaplansky, and many others, too many to name. It became one of his first acoustic songs to be rearranged for performance with a rock band in his electric shows of 1965. It's since been performed by Dylan many hundreds of times. The song can be presented as a cruel rejection or a self-deprecating confession One of the most moving performances, in fact my favourite performance of this song I have to say, occurs during the acoustic set in Dylan's performance at the Isle of Wight Festival in 1969. Utilising his then current Nashville skyline voice, Dylan delivers a gentle and sympathetic reading that is full of great tenderness. This is particularly evocative as the entire Isle of Wight show is presented as a quite deliberate deconstruction of the mythology surrounding Dylan himself. Although the song is a message to a lover, it has often been read, like All I Really Want to Do, as an unequivocal rejection of the political status which had been foisted upon him. I Don't Believe You is another song from the album which hints strongly at Dylan's imminent transition to rock. The narrator complains throughout about a girl who he's just spent a night of passion with, yet who treats him with disdain the next day. Dylan delivers the song with great wit and comic timing, moving seamlessly through bewilderment, disillusionment, and finally defiance, all expressed with acerbic wit. The self-mocking tone in some ways resembles Hank Williams's Nobody's Lonesome for Me, in which the singer bemoans the lack of sympathy he gets when his lover rejects him. But Dylan's song is more graphic in its description of the relationship and less self-pitying. In terms of musical structure and lyrical attitude, it has some resemblance to the blues standard Worried Life blues, especially Chuck Berry's version, from which it appears to borrow a guitar riff, later revamped by Dylan on 2006's Modern Times as Someday Baby. In If I Don't Believe You, the narrator seems to demand explanation rather than revenge. I can't understand, the song begins. She let go of my hand and left me here, facing the wall. He complains that now he can't get close to her at all. His description of the night before is especially evocative. We kissed through the wild, blazing night time. It seems that in the throes of passion, she promised never to forget him. But now that the morning has come, she's blanked him. It's like I ain't here, he complains bitterly. She acts like we never have met. The last phrase, with some variation, is the song's repeated refrain and its subtitle. The title itself never appears in the song. Dylan's narrator plays the part of the wounded lover, who has supposedly been rejected for no reason. But his po-faced declarations of innocence are so pronounced that we are left wondering as to the veracity of his allegations. The narrator continues to assert his supposed lack of guile. It's all new to me, like some mystery, he protests. Could even be like a myth, but it's hard to think on that she's the same one that last night I was with. For a moment he becomes rather wistful, declaring that from darkness dreams are deserted. Again, the playful alliteration suggests that he cannot really be as upset as he claims to be, and he questions himself, am I still dreaming yet? Trying perhaps to convince himself that he has imagined all of this. In a clever turn of phrase, he asserts that I wish he'd unlock her voice once and talk, but such hopes are inevitably in vain. By now it seems quite apparent that the narrator has been exploited by a girl who has shown him little respect, but he still pretends not to understand this, asking the rhetorical question, again punctuated by playful internal rhymes, if she ain't feeling well, then why don't she tell, instead of turning her back to my face? Later he protests that if I was with her too long, or I've done something wrong, I wish she'd tell me what it is. I'd run and hide. These rather half-hearted complaints are followed by more colourful descriptions of their sexual coupling. We hear that her skirt is swayed as a guitar played, and that with comical double overemphasis, her mouth was watery and wet. Later we get more intimate suggestions. Though the night ran swirling and whirling, I remember her whispering yet. As we cut between his complaints and his fond erotic memories, we get a distinct impression that the narrator is actually more miffed than upset. There is no suggestion of true love here. As with Spanish Harlem incident, the focus is very much on lust. Finally, he declares, as in Don't Think Twice or One Too Many Mornings, that he'll be leaving soon. He then gives the song an ingenious twist by asking the girl whether he should imitate her. If you want me to, I could be just like you and pretend that we never have touched. It delivers a highly sarcastic denouement. If anybody asks me, is it easy to forget? I'll say, it's easily done. You just pick anyone and pretend that you never have met. It is thus hard to really sympathise with the protagonist. In the end, he realises he has been toyed with, but boasts that this is an easy trick that he himself could pull off. Given the somewhat whiny attitude he has displayed in the song, this is rather unconvincing. Whether or not we believe him, I Don't Believe You takes the concept of the love song into what, at least at the time, was largely unexplored territory. This is a song which, in the manner of contemporary material like the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night and the Kinks' You Really Got Me, is really quite explicitly about sex. The song can also be seen as a kind of declaration of independence on Dylan's part from the conventions of the kinds of love songs that were deemed acceptable in the folk community. I Don't Believe You has turned out to be a constant presence in Dylan's setlist throughout his career. It's also been covered by many artists. There's an especially effective version by Al Stewart, whose dryly ironic delivery suits the song to a T. On the turbulent 1966 tour, it was the second number in Dylan's standardised electric set, which also included pumped up takes of Baby Let Me Follow You Down and One Too Many Mornings. At the epical Manchester Free Trade Hall show in May 1966, released as Live 66 in the bootleg series, with audible barracking being thrown at him, his drawling, defiant introduction to the song runs, "This is called I Don't Believe You. It used to go like this, now it goes like this," before launching into an energetic and extremely powerful full-on rock version of the song. Later, after the famous and now extremely iconic cry of Judas, the phrase Dylan comes out with before his incendiary version of Rolling Stone is I Don't Believe You. Several very distinctive love songs that Dylan composed around this time never made it onto his official albums, although these songs did tend to get snapped up by other musicians. If You Gotta Go, Go Now is a light-hearted romp which, like I Don't Believe You, is based around a sexual encounter. As such, it received several airplay bans. Dear, dear. The song was a regular feature of Dylan's final acoustic tours. It features on Live 66, the bootleg series, recording of the 1964 Philadelphia Halloween show. Many of these early performances were accompanied by audience laughter. The song was rehearsed in acoustic form for the Bringing It All Back Home sessions, but it soon became clear that it worked better as rock and roll. Various takes of the electric version appear on The Cutting Edge. However, the song was omitted from the album and only released as a standalone single in the Netherlands, where it failed to make any impact. The British group Manfred Mann's cover, which followed a similar template to Dylan's later recordings, was, however, a big hit for the band in the UK in 1965. In 1969, a bizarre and very jokey version with French lyrics, well, partly French anyway, kind of cod French, was became the only hit single Fairport Convention ever really managed to achieve. The suggestiveness of If You Gotta Go Now is reminiscent of many blues numbers. With its many witty lines, it also recalls the quick-fire lyricism of Chuck Berry. Its fast-paced, driving beat, droll lyrics and offhand delivery also identify it clearly as being influenced by the Beatles, who were as celebrated as much for their naturally witty personalities as their music. The song consists of pleas by a horny young man for a girl to spend the night with him. In order to persuade her, he employs a number of tricks. Firstly, he begins with the obvious. "Listen to me, baby. There's something you must see. I want to be with you, girl, if you want to be with me." In the chorus, he makes sure that consent is achieved, but cheekily tries to impose his own conditions. If you got to go, it's all right, but if you got to go, go now, or else you got to stay all night. He is being forceful, of course, but in a charmingly funny rather than aggressive way. The song has 3 other verses in which the attempts at seduction continue. Perhaps the funniest is the second, which runs, "It ain't that I'm questioning you to take part in any kind of quiz. It's just that I haven't got no watch, and you keep asking me what time it is." Later he declares, perhaps ironically, that "I certainly wouldn't want you thinking that I don't have any respect." Finally he declares that she must stay because "I'll be sleeping soon, and it'll be too dark for you to find the door," which is, one of the worst excuses she's ever heard, I'm sure. Anyway, I'll keep it with mine as another unreleased song, first recorded in a final Whitmark demo session in June 1964. A more committed version, released in 1985 on the Biograph compilation, was recorded at the first Bringing It All Back Home session. Both featured Dylan on solo piano. Later, several attempts were tried out for Blonde on Blonde, but the song did not appear on any of his studio albums in the mid-60s or in his live sets. Later did appear on the compilation Biograph 1985. This is surprising, as it's such a highly effective and tightly constructed ballad, in which, still experimenting with the form of the love song, Dylan examines the vagaries of love from an unusual angle. The song concerns a couple who, for whatever reason, do not really fit together. This was a kind of subject matter that's still unusual in mainstream pop music, although such subjects were meat and drink to country songwriters who specialised in the vagaries of domesticity. Kitty Wells' 1952 hit, It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels, deals with marital infidelity without pulling any punches. In confessional songs like Crazy Heart and You Win Again, Hank Williams examines love with a kind of fatalism that hangs over I'll Keep It With Mine. The song has only 3 verses, but manages to convey a powerful sense of how some people are just not suited to be in a relationship with each other. The language is again straightforward, but with many clever twists. The lyrics appear to be merely sketching out the parameters of this relationship, leaving us to fill in most of the details. The chorus, If I Can Save You Any Time, Come On, Give It To Me, I'll Keep It With Mine, is mysterious. The narrator seems to be asking the girl to donate some time, or perhaps memories, to him. The title phrase seems to suggest some dark inner feelings or secrets that the narrator feels he must keep to himself. Dylan begins with rather tongue-twisting and somewhat tragic lines. You'll search, babe, at any cost, but how long, babe, can you search for what is not lost? Just like the mismatched couple in the song, we will never find out what was not lost, but the suggestion seems to be that this missing element was never present in the first place, i.e. the couple did not really love each other in a meaningful way. Although we hear that everybody will help you, some people are very kind, this tells us very little except that the object of the song, and presumably the narrator as well, is in considerable distress. The second verse begins with more convoluted lines. I can't help it if you might think I'm odd, if you say I'm not loving you for what you are, but for what you're not. This is certainly odd, and possibly somewhat demeaning, although the next lines repeat the earlier sentiments. Everybody will help you discover what you set out to find. We are never told what she is actually searching for. The final verse has some similarities to Robert Johnson's classic fatalistic blues, Love in Vain, later recorded by the Rolling Stones, which also refers to a train leaving on which the singer's lover will depart. But this does not resolve the situation. We are told that the train leaves at 10:30, but it will be back in the same old spot again, and that the conductor, he's weary, he's still stuck on the line. In blues songs, trains generally leave towards some kind of particular destination, but here the train is stuck in some kind of loop. The figure of the weary conductor seems to have merged with the narrator, who is still stuck on the line. This song creates a vivid picture of two people who are trapped in a relationship which they need to end but cannot find the means to do so. Marianne Faithfull's take on the song is suitably strung out and anguished. Nico, who Dylan supposedly wrote the song after their brief affair in 1964, recorded the song in 1967 in a highly individualistic version with her trademark stern vocal style. The definitive version, however, is surely that of Fairport Convention from their album What We Did on Our Holidays, released in early 1969. This is a really amazing version. Fairport built the song up from a simple strummed guitar lick into a magnificent full band performance, gradually introducing more and more instruments as the song comes to a climax. Sandy Denny gives one of her greatest ever performances, modulating her voice between the quiet, almost whispered tones on the verses and the full-throated expression of the choruses. These changes have pasted the ambiguous nature of the song perfectly. Richard and Linda Thompson, Richard Thompson of course was guitarist in Fairport, Richard and Linda Thompson performed the song in concert several times in the 70s with a similar arrangement. I'm going to pause that there, and I'll be continuing with the third part of this particular little project next time. Do go and have a look at my website at chrisgregory.org, otherwise known as From the Pen of Chris Gregory. You'll find the complete text of this whole thing there, along with many other texts on Dylan, all fully illustrated in quite a nice way, I think. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.
Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?